A gentleman asked me just a little while ago how we mounted the alternator down low on this LT1 using the factory bracket. And I shouldn't have said gentleman, I didn't mean to assume your gender. But anybody that's interested in LT1s has to be a gentleman, right? So, let's get down to it. This is the factory F-body LT1 bracket. Remember the Corvettes and I think the Caprices are on the other side. So, we wanted to keep power steering on it, ditch the AC, and put the alternator down low so we can get to the valve cover a lot easier. We found online where some guy had already done this and posted a few pictures up, but there wasn't a lot of good information, so we just kind of took it upon ourselves to figure it out. So what do you do with the plug wires? Well, we had the plug wires routed through this hole that we cut. I put a couple pieces of plastic wire loom here to keep the wires from rubbing against the aluminum. This is the factory tensioner. This is a factory alternator. And there's not much belt wrap between this top idler pulley down around this alternator pulley and around this tensioner. But we never had any problem with belt slipping that we know of. Seemed like it always worked. Now this idler pulley was off of a, gosh, I don't even know what it would come off of, like a Dodge truck or something. But it didn't matter, it didn't fit anyways. What we ended up doing was, we just shoved a bolt through an idler pulley. They use the same rib count. And if you can see it, we stacked a bunch of washers behind it until we got it right. So nothing fancy about that. And then, let's see. This bolt here uses a factory mount, I think, for the AC right here. So there was nothing that we had to change there. The alternator just happened to be spaced out the correct distance. Now, as far as the top part goes, all we used was a piece of angle iron. We cut it, obviously, to this shape. I don't remember what we used on the back side. We did use bolts with nuts on the back side. This looks like a 5/16 bolt. Shove the bolt through there. My only advice to you is to try to get it as close. You can only get it so close. But try to get it really close to that bracket. We did have to hammer the frame rail in a little bit to get the alternator to clear when we was putting the engine in. But after we got it in there, it was just fine. We couldn't tell it was ever hitting. So I can't find the belt. I've got two belts laying around here that are different lengths. I don't know which one came off of this engine, so I can't really give you a belt number. Of course, you know, your belt length is probably going to change based on this pulley. So I didn't really know which one it was. I wasn't going to take all this stuff apart and put the power steering pump on it to figure it out. But it did allow the use of the power steering pump, factory alternator, factory bracket. So really we've got very little money in this. We had to extend the small gauge wire. I don't remember what it is, like a 20 gauge or 18 gauge wire that runs down to the alternator. We had to extend that. That's no big deal. Cut the splice. But as far as the rest of it goes, piece of angle iron, everybody's got angle iron laying around. Very little money wrapped up in this. This idler pulley, we had it laying around. It's the only reason we used it, but you can find an idler pulley off of different cars laying around, or go buy one pretty cheap. You just need to make sure that, you know, it's something you can use. I think it was a 5.9 Dodge Dakota pulley, idler pulley, I think. Anyways, if you have any other questions, I'll try to figure it out. Here you can see we cut the top of this off, but we had to leave this on here to leave a little bit of strength to the bracket. But we cut off as much as we could just to make it easier for us to get to the rest of the engine. So, anyways, now this next year, or the next time this engine's going, we're doing away with the power steering, and we're just doing an alternator, and we're going to use a regular alternator mount that just puts it about right here, and it'll just be alternator and then bigger alternator. So air pushing alternator, whirligigger, belt driven whirligigger. All right, have any other LT1 questions, please let me know.